What if the best ideas for our homes are already tucked away in the past? We're talking about clever gadgets that made life a little easier. From refrigerators that saved your back to popcorn makers that were just plain fun. Let's dust off some memories and look at the vintage designs that were so good. They honestly deserve a second act. The ultimate winter weapon. For anyone who has ever battled a snowy winter. Here's a tool that sounds like it came straight out of a tall tale, the snow-melting flame gun. Forget the back-breaking work of shoveling. This handheld device, which looked a bit like a flamethrower, used a powerful flame to blast away ice and snow from your driveway and walkways. It wasn't technically a kitchen gadget, of course, but it sure helped your dinner guests get to the front door. You just aimed it, fired it up, and watched the snow vanish. And you have to admit, you can't help but wonder about its other potential uses. From starting a bonfire in seconds to lighting the grill from a safe distance. It was a time when a little bit of danger was just part of the fun. You certainly wouldn't find something like this on the shelves today, that's for sure. The stove with a built-in workspace. Sometimes, the old designs were just plain smarter, and the Tappan Fabulous 400 stove is a perfect case in point. This range had a brilliant feature designed for maximum efficiency in the kitchen. It came with a built-in wooden cutting board that could slide out over the electric burners when they weren't in use. This created a seamless workflow like nothing else. You could stand in one place, chop all your vegetables on the board, and then simply slide it back to push your ingredients directly into the pan waiting below. No mess, no walking back and forth to another counter. It was pure, simple genius for a busy cook. You just don't see that kind of practical thinking in appliance design anymore. Instead, we get a dozen buttons and a manual we'll never read. The all-in-one party cabinet. Now this was the ultimate party in a box for the mid-century host with the most closed. The telebar looked like any other handsome wooden cabinet in the living room. But when you swung open the doors, it revealed a complete entertainment command center. You had it all right there, a television for catching your favorite evening shows, a record player for spinning some tunes, and the star of the show, a fully stocked, ready-to-go bar. Imagine having friends over for cards or a get-together. Everything you needed for a good time was in one convenient, stylish spot. It was the original smart home hub, designed for pure leisure and impressing your guests. Everything you needed for a perfect evening with friends was right at your fingertips. It made you feel like the most sophisticated host on the block. The kitchen table meat grinder. I bet many of us remember this beast, a heavy-duty, cast-iron contraption clamped firmly to the edge of the kitchen table. Before you could buy pre-packaged ground beef, if you wanted burgers or sausage, you made it yourself. You'd feed chunks of meat into the top funnel, turn the crank, and listen to that grinding sound as fresh meat came out the other side. It was a workout, for sure, but the result was pure, honest ground meat. It was a satisfying, hands-on task that often brought the family together to help. The taste of those homemade burgers was always worth the extra effort. You knew exactly what was in your food, and you could taste the difference. The cheerful countertop spinner. Remember these things before they became flimsy plastic gadgets. The original salad spinners were champs, decked out in cheerful colors like avocado green or harvest gold. They were a bright spot on the kitchen counter. They did their job perfectly, turning soggy lettuce into crisp, ready-to-eat greens with just a few turns of a crank. But their real secret was how they got the kids involved. Mom would hand it over, and you'd sit on the floor, cranking that handle like you were starting a car. It was a genius move. Really, it kept you busy, out of the way, and feeling like you were helping out. That simple gadget was a solution that made everyone happy. Plus, the whirring sound it made was the official soundtrack to a healthy dinner. The laundry day workout machine. On laundry day long ago, this was the machine that did it all. A clothes wringer washer was a simple but effective combination of a washing tub and a hand-cranked wringer on top. You'd wash the clothes in the tub, then feed them through the two rollers to squeeze out all the excess water before hanging them up to dry. It was a manual process that gave you a bit of a workout, but these machines were incredibly durable because they were purely mechanical, with no delicate electronic parts. They are still valued today by homesteaders, people living off-grid, and anyone who wants a reliable backup that doesn't depend on electricity. It represented a kind of rugged self-sufficiency we don't see much of today. This was a machine built to work, not to be replaced every few years. The phone that was built like a tank. Remember the sheer heft of an old rotary telephone? These things were built to last. Making a call was a deliberate, tactile experience. You'd stick your finger in the hole for each number and pull the dial around, listening to that satisfying whir as it spun back into place. There was no speed dialing or accidental pocket calls. Every conversation felt a bit more intentional because it took a little effort to start it. What they lacked in modern convenience, they more than made up for in durability and character. It was an appliance built for conversations, not just calls. You could probably drop one down a flight of stairs and it would still work just fine. The granddaddy of the crockpot. Before the crockpot became the king of every kitchen counter, there was its grandpa, the Naxon beanery. This was the original set-it-and-forget-it slow cooker, invented by a man named Irving Naxon, who was inspired by his grandmother's traditional bean stew. The beanery let folks achieve that same old-world taste without being tethered to the stove. In 1971, a company bought the rights, rebranded it as the Crockpot, and a kitchen legend was born. But at its heart, it was just the good old beanery with a catchy new name. It just goes to show that a great idea is timeless, no matter what you call it. The delicious smells filling the house all day were proof of that. When kitchens were full of color, take a walk through an appliance store today and you'll find yourself in a sea of stainless steel, black and white. It's all very sleek, but also a little boring. It wasn't always this way. There was a time when kitchens were bursting with color and the refrigerator was often the star. We all remember the iconic shades of the 70s, like harvest gold and avocado green. But there were also soft pinks, bright turquoise blues, and rich copper-tone browns. You could match your fridge to your wallpaper or your flooring. It was a fun way to bring personality into the heart of the home. A design choice that feels wonderfully bold compared to the safe, neutral options we have now. That splash of color made the kitchen feel alive. It was a statement piece, not just something to keep the milk cold. The fridge that hung on the wall. Now here's a head-scratcher. Why on earth did this brilliant idea ever go away? Imagine a refrigerator that hangs on the wall like a cabinet. Sure, you'd need some sturdy bolts, but think of the benefits. No more bending down and rummaging through the back of a deep shelf to find the mustard. Everything is right there at eye level, easy to see and grab. And the best part, cleaning underneath it would be a piece of cake. No more trying to get a mop into that grimy, dusty space behind and under a bulky fridge. A quick sweep, and you're done. For our backs and our cleaning routines, it was a game changer. It's one of those ideas that was so logical, it's amazing it didn't stick. The hand-cranked dessert maker. Making ice cream used to be a special event, and it often involved the whole family gathering around a machine like this. These old-fashioned ice cream makers were simple. In design, a central canister for the cream mixture, surrounded by a bucket filled with ice and rock salt. The magic came from the hand crank. Family members would take turns steadily turning the handle, churning the mixture until it slowly thickened into rich, creamy ice cream. The reward for all that effort was a truly fresh, homemade dessert that you just can't get from a carton at the store. The anticipation was almost as sweet as the final product. Your arm might be sore, but your taste buds were in heaven. The quiet morning coffee ritual. Before electric grinders filled the kitchen with a loud whir, there was the quiet, satisfying ritual of the manual coffee grinder. These were often beautifully crafted from wood and metal, and they gave you a hands-on connection to your morning cup. You'd pour in the whole beans, turn the crank, and feel the gentle resistance as the burrs did their work. The best part was the incredible aroma of freshly ground coffee that filled the air. It was a peaceful, personal start to the day, offering complete control over the coarseness of the grind, and a cup of coffee that felt truly earned and special. That wonderful smell was the best alarm clock. It was a process that woke up your senses before you even took a sip. The disappearing stovetop. Here's an idea that was almost genius, a true "why didn't this stick around" moment. To save precious counter space in smaller kitchens, companies designed electric stovetops that could slide away into the wall like a drawer. When you needed to cook, you pulled it out. When you were done, it disappeared, leaving a clean, flat surface. The problem? The execution wasn't always as great as the concept. Over time, heat and grease would gunk up the sliding mechanism, causing it to jam shut or get stuck halfway out, which defeated the whole purpose. It was a brilliant concept that was just a bit ahead of its time. When it worked, it felt like you were living in the future. The all-in-one breakfast station. If you have one of these tucked away in a cabinet, you're holding onto a piece of breakfast history. This clever countertop griddle was a master of morning efficiency. The flat-top surface was perfect for making a big batch of pancakes. But the real genius was the small drawer underneath. You could slide it out and cook your bacon or sausage links at the very same time. Everything was cooked in one spot, on one appliance, and it all stayed hot and ready to serve together. No more juggling multiple pans on the stove. This gadget truly understood what a weekend breakfast was all about. It was the kind of appliance that made you want to cook a big family meal. The two-in-one countertop workhorse. Even with all the frozen food options we have today, a well-stocked pantry with canned goods is still a lifesaver. And if you have cans, you need a can opener. While the manual ones get the job done, the electric models that hummed away on our mothers' and grandmothers' countertops were the true workhorses. The real magic, though, wasn't just how they opened a can of soup. Many of these older models had a secret weapon built right in a knife sharpener. Remember that. It was a brilliant two-in-one appliance that played a quiet but crucial role in countless hearty, home-cooked meals. It was a perfect example of practical, multifunctional design. It was a permanent and trusted fixture on the kitchen counter. The original off-grid refrigerator. Before the familiar hum of an electric refrigerator, The icebox was the centerpiece of the kitchen. These were essentially well-insulated wooden cabinets that kept food cold with a large block of ice delivered by the iceman. The ice sat in a top compartment, and the cool air would circulate downward, preserving milk, butter, and meats below. They were more than just appliances. With their sturdy oak construction and handsome hardware, they were often beautiful pieces of furniture, and since they required no electricity, they were the perfect solution for keeping things fresh. Their silence was part of their simple charm. You just had to remember to put the ice card in the window for the delivery man. The classy drink maker. Before you could buy seltzer in cans and plastic bottles, a soda siphon was the elegant way to make your own bubbly water at home. These beautiful glass bottles, often protected by a metal mesh, added a touch of class to any home bar or gathering. You would simply insert a small CO2 cartridge, and with a press of a lever, you had fresh, sparkling soda water, perfect for a cocktail or a refreshing spritzer. They were fun to use, looked sophisticated on a tray, and were a sustainable way to enjoy carbonated drinks. Using one made you feel like a fancy bartender. That satisfying psh sound was the signal that a good time was about to begin. The kitchen's Swiss Army knife. This clever gadget was far more than just a can opener. It was like having a kitchen multi-tool right on your counter. The Ronson can opener came with a set of interchangeable attachments that transformed it into a completely different appliance. After you opened your can of soup, you could pop on a whisk attachment to whip up some cream or mix a cake batter. There was also a masher for potatoes and even a scrambler for making eggs. It was an ingenious, space-saving design that packed an incredible amount of utility into one single, powerful unit. You had to admire its ambition. It was the ultimate testament to post-war ingenuity and efficiency. The old-fashioned lettuce chopper. Speaking of salads, take a gander at this funny-looking wooden gadget. It might look like something from a museum, but it's actually an old-fashioned salad chopper. The idea was beautifully simple and, frankly, pretty satisfying to use. You'd place a head of lettuce in the curved wooden bowl, which was shaped just right to hold it. Then, you'd take the half-moon blade and just rock it back and forth over the greens. A few firm chops, and you had perfectly sliced lettuce, ready for the dressing. It was like a food processor, but powered by you. There was something wonderfully tactile about preparing food this way. The rhythmic rocking motion was almost therapeutic. The toaster, that just worked before digital displays and a dozen confusing settings. The toaster oven was a simple, honest appliance. These old-school models, often with a flip-down door and a couple of manual dials, were absolute workhorses. They were built like tanks and could last for decades, reliably toasting bread, melting cheese on a sandwich, or reheating last night's leftovers without any drama. The design was straightforward. The controls were intuitive, and they just plain worked. They may not have been flashy, but they were a dependable and indispensable part of the kitchen counter for years. You could always count on it. It was a tool, not a piece of complicated technology. The cocktail hour essential picture. At a 1950s cocktail party or a cool basement rec room, the drink of choice was a highball or a whiskey sour, and for that, you needed the right kind of ice. Enter the vintage ice crusher. This handsome chrome and metal gadget had one job: to turn solid ice cubes into that perfectly chunky, crushed ice that made any drink feel a little more special. The simple hands-on satisfaction of turning the crank and hearing that crunch was half the fun. Our modern refrigerators might do it for us, but they sure don't have the same charm. It was a small luxury that made a big difference. It was a ritual that made the drink taste even better. The original power-free mixer. Long before every kitchen had a powerful stand mixer, these manual rotary beaters were the true workhorses. With a simple turn of the crank, you could whip egg whites into stiff peaks, blend batter for pancakes, or cream butter and sugar for a cake. They were powered by nothing more than good old-fashioned elbow grease. There was a beautiful simplicity to them. Nothing to plug in, no complicated attachments, and cleanup was a breeze. For generations, these reliable gadgets were at the heart of so many delicious family recipes. It was a little bit of kitchen magic powered entirely by you. And it was a great way to build up your arm muscles before breakfast. The waffle iron that got better with age. There's a reason why waffles from an old-fashioned iron just taste better. Those heavy cast iron plates provided incredible, even heat that created the perfect waffle, deeply golden, wonderfully crispy on the outside, and light and fluffy on the inside. Unlike modern non-stick surfaces that can wear out, these cast iron plates were built to last a lifetime. In fact, they got better with age, developing a natural non-stick seasoning, just like a beloved skillet. They were simple, reliable, and focused on one thing, making a truly superior waffle. It was a breakfast tradition passed down through generations. These were true family heirlooms, seasoned with decades of delicious memories. The small apartment lifesaver. For anyone who's ever lived in a rental apartment or a home without the space for a full-size dishwasher, this gadget is a true kitchen hero. Portable countertop dishwashers offered the magic of automated dishwashing without any major renovations. You'd simply roll it over to the sink, hook the hose up to the faucet, and let it run. They held a surprising number of dishes, and when the cycle was finished, you could just unhook it and tuck it away in a closet or corner, getting your counter space back. It was the perfect solution for people who were tired of dishpan hands. This little machine felt like the ultimate luxury. Hearing it hum away while you relaxed after dinner was a beautiful sound. The stovetop movie night popper. There was nothing quite like the experience of making popcorn on the stove with a hand crank popper. It was an interactive part of movie night at home. You'd pour the oil and kernels into the pot, place it on the burner, and start turning the crank. This kept the kernels moving so they wouldn't burn, ensuring that every last one popped into a fluffy, delicious piece. You could hear the sizzle and then the first exciting pops, building anticipation for the hot, fresh snack to come. It was a simple, fun, and hands-on way to make a classic treat. The smell alone was worth the effort, and everyone would fight over who got to turn the crank. The 3-in-1 kitchen miracle. All right, get a load of this all-in-one wonder, a single unit that combined a refrigerator, a stovetop, and a sink. It's a strange-looking contraption, and you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who actually grew up with one. These combination appliances never quite took off in a big way. But stop and think about the pure practicality of it. For a tiny studio apartment, a small guest cabin, or even an RV, this was a brilliant space-saving idea. Instead of trying to cram 3 separate appliances into a small area, you had everything you needed for basic cooking and cleanup in one compact footprint. It was an incredible feat of consolidation. It was the perfect solution for a life lived simply and efficiently. The heart of the vintage kitchen. In many older homes, the wood-fired cook stove was the true heart of the kitchen. This single sturdy appliance did everything. It cooked meals on its flat-top surface, baked bread and pies in its oven, heated water for washing, and provided a cozy warmth that filled the entire house. Operating one required a certain skill. You had to know how to build the fire just right and regulate the heat. But these stoves were incredibly reliable and versatile, offering a radiant heat that was perfect for slow-cooked stews and roasts, all with a rustic charm that made every meal feel special. It was the original multitasker. On a cold, winter day, it was the best room in the house to be in. The original homemade butter maker. In the days before you could just grab a stick of butter from the store, many families made their own with a butter churn. It was a simple, rhythmic process. You'd pour fresh cream into the container and then crank a handle or move a plunger up and down until, like magic, the liquid transformed into golden, creamy butter. The taste of homemade butter was simply unbeatable. It was pure, fresh, and could be salted just the way you liked. With more people today interested in making food from scratch, you can see why this old-fashioned practice is making a bit of a comeback. It was a simple pleasure that felt incredibly rewarding. Spreading that fresh butter on a warm piece of bread was pure bliss. So, which of these old-timers did you grow up with? It's fun to see how many of these clever ideas have been forgotten over the years. Share your memories in the comments below. We'd love to hear which ones were a part of your home.